Hari Om, everyone. Welcome to the Mandukya Karika summary by the seekers. And this is a gratitude and our thankfulness over to Shekharji as we do this presentation. Hope I'm audible. So
yes, you're fine. You're fine.
We can go to the opening shlokas. Get a slight change. Yeah. Okay, so the agenda for today would be that we would do the opening shloka and officially open today's session as usual. And then as you could see there, so we would expound on our understanding and summarization of the Mandukya Upanishad. It would be a revision. It would be just what has been taught in this class, and then try to present what are those key points and summarize it. We go by chapter wise so that it's more structured and organized. So chapter 1 would be taken by Bharatji and continued by 2 from Martinaji, and chapter 3 by Nandakumarji, and chapter 4 by Krishnaji. And overall summary would be done by Ramachandra Garu. And then I would take up Moksha Purushartha. And then we would open it for all the viewers for the Q&A and their insights too, and their experiences. And then we will end the session with a closing prayer. So we will start today's session with opening prayer. भद्रं कर्णेभिः शृणुयाम देवाः भद्रं पश्येमाक्षभिर्यजत्राः स्थिरैरङ्गैः तुष्टुवाहंसस्तनूभिः व्यशेम देवहितं यदायुः स्वस्ति नः इन्द्रो वृद्धश्रवाः स्वस्ति नः पूषा विश्ववेदाः स्वस्ति नस्तार्क्ष्यो अरिष्ठनेमिः स्वस्ति नोर्बृहस्पतिर्दधातु ॐ तन्मावतु तद्वक्तारमवतु अवतु माम् अवतु वक्तारम् ॐ शान्ति शान्तिः शान्तिः. Welcome all. Over to you, Bharatji, for taking it over.
Okay. Am I audible to everyone?
Yes, please.
Okay, so I will be presenting chapter 1 of the Mandukya Karika. I plan to do something slightly in addition to the Karika. I'm going to try and explain the entire Upanishad with the additional information from Shankara's Adhyasa Bhashya. So what we have, so before I start, I just wanted to say namaste to Shekharji, fellow presenters, and everyone else here today. So again, before I start, a disclaimer that any mistakes in this presentation are mine and mine alone. Vedanta promises the end of suffering and attainment of freedom. Suffering is a universal, unwanted experience. Happiness is fleeting and there is a background dullness due to the lack of fulfillment. This is the ocean of samsara. Vedanta claims we are bound in samsara because we don't know who we are or what the world really is. Samsara is synonymous with adhyasa, wrong understanding about ourselves and the world. Not error first and bondage. The wrong thinking is itself samsara. The Upanishads are pointers so that we may correct our thinking and reach the correct understanding. We do this by using yukti reasoning to explain the Shruti mantras. When we verify with our Anubhava direct experience, our false cognitions are corrected through negation. We have an instinctive understanding of what the Shruti is pointing out. The Mandukya Upanishad is able to provide that understanding with 12 highly subtle enigmatic mantras. To help with our reasoning, we are blessed to have the timeless Mandukya Karika by Gaudapada and commentary by Shankara. I feel Shankara's Adhyasa Bhashya is an aid to reasoning which complements Sakarika. Let's quickly cover Adhyasa. Simply stated, Adhyasa is mistaking one thing for another. Through mutual superimposition, the properties of one object are superimposed onto another, and the other's properties superimposed onto the first object. It is a false cognition. The classic example is mistaking a rope for a snake. The snake's dangerous properties are superimposed onto rope. The rope's existence is superimposed onto the snake. The false cognition is corrected when we recognize a rope as rope. There never was a snake. Whereas a snake and a rope are objects, Shankara explains a thing only needs to be evident for adhyasa to take place. Our own existence is direct and immediate. Therefore, we can hold false, incorrect ideas about ourselves as well as anything else in the world. Adhyasa is inherent, natural, beginless, and endless until corrected by knowledge. Adhyasa is avidya in the form of natural nascience, doubt, and misunderstanding. Lord Krishna outlines reality in Gita, chapter 2, verse 16. The unreal never comes to be, the real never ceases to be. So whatever can be negated was never real, and whatever cannot be negated is the real. Adhyasa fails a reality test, whereas our self-existence passes it. As a false cognition, adhyasa can be easily negated. Notice that negation works on cognitions. It does not destroy things. Now for the Mandukya Upanishad. Though we have studied it in wonderful detail, please relax. Listen carefully to the reasoning behind each mantra and check against your own anubhava. Please note, all Vedanta is done in the waking state, where our knowledge is partial. Now imagine if you were a spiritual seeker who had never studied Mandukya Upanishad, but you had a pure open mind and sharp intellect. What could be your experience, your understanding, as you are taught the Mandukya Upanishad? Let's see. I have a natural adhyasa in the form of simple nescience. Ignorance about anything cannot be known, otherwise it is not ignorance. In other words, nescience is, I don't even know that I don't know. Whereas my partial knowledge can lead to doubt and misunderstanding. In whatever form I check my anubhava, I don't know who I am. I do indeed have adhyasa because I'm a spiritual seeker seeking answers. I am taught the 12 mantras and reflect on each one. Mantra 1. Om is all this, past, present, future, and beyond. Om is a word that refers to itself. I conclude it is both immanent and transcendent. So, logically, am I this Om? I have no idea. It all sounds too far-fetched. There is adhyasa based on nescience. Mantra 2. All this is Brahman. Taittiriya Upanishad, chapter 2, 211 speaks of reality. Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahman, the non-negatable absolute reality. I understand the definition, so it is hard to doubt the logic, but I cannot accept it. Thus, adhyasa based on doubt. This Atman is Brahman, is the Mahavakya. This self, myself, is Brahman. How can this be? If I am Brahman, can I misbehave? Should I start teaching Western Neo-Advaita? I have serious misunderstandings, which results in major adhyasa. The Shruti is compassionate. It says, this same Atman has 4 quarters. The Shruti will use my anubhava of the 3 states and show me my false cognitions. By negation of these mistakes, Jnanam corrects and displaces adhyasa. Let's take mantras 3, 4, 5 together. Waking, dream, deep sleep are three states well known to all. My standpoint is waking is obviously the primary state because it is real. Dreams can be completely different from waking, yet they feel just as real. Upon waking, dreams are easily negated because waking is obviously real. The Shruti describes deep sleep as a homogeneous mass of consciousness, the enjoyer of bliss. Of deep sleep, I say, I know I slept well, but I didn't know anything. I can definitely relate to Prajna. Mantra 6. This is the Lord of all, the knower of all, the inner controller, Antayami, the source and dissolution of all beings. Checking my Anubhava, I know all three states, yet they are mutually exclusive. This means I transcend the states. I cannot be the waker, dreamer, or the deep sleeper who eventually wakes, but here I am. Who or what am I? Given mantra to Mahavakya, the very fact that I have questions even at this stage indicates adhyasa. Mantra 7. The ever compassionate Shruti understands my dilemma. It negates what Atma is not and points to what Atma is. First negation transcends all conscious knowers. Second negation transcends all knowables. That is, every way of objectifying or relating to Atma. I notice these two negations are exactly the opening lines of the Adhyasa Bhashya. The Asmat and Yushmat, the me notion and the you notion, cancelled together. The Shruti powers on. It encourages the cessation of all phenomena, prapanchopashana, to follow the eye cognition and to realize the Atman. Is the Shruti asking me to reflect on the previous mantra 6 about the Lord of all? What is the relationship between the Lord and I? But wait, the Shruti negated relationships too. Then Shruti points to the reality. Peace, auspiciousness, Advaita, not two. I take a moment. Do I fully understand? Well, I think I know something, but no, I don't fully understand. Therefore, I still have adhyasa. Mantra 8. The Shruti uses Om, AUM, to point out the Atman. There's a slight, significant shift from the intellect to the heart. My self-existence really is self-evident, self-standing and independent. The sense of pure being is strong, yet I still feel shaky. I can't be any of the individuals in any state. I simply witness the three states. But there, there is something not quite right. There is still a sense of witnessed duality. I have faith in the Shruti. Let me switch my standpoint to one of non-dual Turiya Atman Brahman. Mantra 9. Waking. I notice the isness of objects, and the perception of any object depends on consciousness. This isness awareness is inseparable, formless, boundless, choiceless, effortless. Am I isness awareness? Mantra 10. Dream. Ooh. Suddenly the dream just is. The dreamer and the dream world appear simultaneously. There is no sequential beginning between them and no sequential ending. And I notice the same for the waker and the waking world. They start and end immediately together. The individual and their world is both in both waking and dream are inseparable. From inside the waking mind is a river, a flow of thoughts in time. But the state taking as a whole is a lake, one single thought with time inside it, not it inside time. I, the witness of the lake. am not in the flow at all. The waking and dream states are like blocks with their own time, space, and causal structures. Mantra 11, deep sleep. I negate all phenomena and they have ceased, yet I am. I recall Mantra 7, Advaitam, not 2. Something shifts again. I am immanent in the three states, yet I am transcendent outside of them all, like gold in all ornaments, yet not any ornament. And a quiet suspicion arises about deep sleep itself. Was it really a state I pass through, or simply my own existence, free of duality? A wave rises and falls. The water neither arrives nor departs. Perhaps waking is the wave, and deep sleep is the water. I thought waking continued while I slept, but that is an inference, not an experience. Like seeing a scary snake, I leave the area. Upon returning, I see it again. I infer it was there in between. But that snake was never there, even while I looked at it. Mantra 11, Amatra, the silence. Shantam Shivam Advaita. In the silence after one Om and before the next, the three states do not exist, but I exist. Lord Krishna smiles at me from Gita, chapter 2, verse 69. What is night for all beings? Therein the sage is awake. Where beings are awake, that is night for the sage who sees the self. I see my mistake. My day and my night were exactly inverted. Waking is not primary. Deep sleep is not a state. Deep sleep, when properly understood, is universal, impersonal, Advaitam. Waking and dream are nothing but appearances in that Advaita reality. I recall Mantra 2, I am Atma Brahma. My mind feels empowered. I send mental thanks to the rishis, as that is my mind's nature. The seeking has ended. But wait, look, the two Mangala shlokas remain. In the Mangala shlokas, Shankara expresses salutations to Brahman and prayers to Atman respectively. But notice, Brahman as Tat and Atman as Twa. Together, Shankara has given us an extra gift. Tat Twamasi. The Upanishad is over. How does self-knowledge remove adhyasa? And what are the results? The Jnana Phala. Adhyasa, a false misconception about our Swarupa, is natural. We were born in adhyasa. Actually, to think one was born is the adhyasa. However, a false misconception is easily negated with knowledge, just as in a dark room, physical light immediately displaces darkness. And notice there is no time gap. There is no second step. Knowledge and the fruit of knowledge are not two. The moment I discover I am Atma, I am Atma. Jnanam is not karmic. Atma is an existing fact that only needs revealing once. The spiritual skills will still need repetition, but never the recognition. Furthermore, notice that in a dark room or a bright room, the light of consciousness is always present. I repeat, consciousness is always present. The twist is that the very concept of adhyasa, false cognition, is itself adhyasa. Adhyasa of adhyasa is jnanam. There never was adhyasa. Why? Only consciousness which revealed adhyasa is. I had said we would talk of the results of self-knowledge, but there are no karmic results. Everything stays exactly as is, but the ever-present sunlight is now noticed. Like a lion in the jungle, let's conclude by looking back on how far we have come. The natural adhyasa was synonymous with a lack of discernment. Atma was taken as an Atma, and Anatma as Atma. And what about this individual, this jiva who made the mistake? It was a fabricated appearance which was experienced in consciousness, imagined simultaneously with the apparent world. Gaudapada is fearless. Karika, chapter 2, verse 32 proclaims, no dissolution, no origination, no one is bound, no seeker, and no one is liberated. This is the highest truth. This is said not to dismiss the seeker's path, but to complete it. It is spoken from the rope reality's standpoint, with compassion to those no longer frightened of the snake samsara. What remains is what Karika, chapter 3, verse 36, sings about Swarupa: birthless, sleepless, dreamless, nameless, formless, ever effulgent, and ever free. Realizing Atma, there is still experience, but it is Brahman appearing in that way. Truth is relationless. Every relationship can be said to belong to that absolute standpoint, but actually, the absolute standpoint itself is adhyasa. There is no real absolute standpoint. There are no major desires or fears, because there never was a lack. One was always fulfilled, purna. That background dullness of samsara was always in the light of Atma. How stupid was I! Those very thoughts are ripples on the cosmic ocean, nothing but water. Only Brahman is. It begins to rain. The eye laughs, and the body-mind enjoys the taste of raindrops, all whilst abiding in the Ananda Swarupa of the universal, impersonal truth. Thank you all for your time in allowing me to express my understanding of Mandukya Upanishad. I try to use the minimalist intellectual tooling of Shankara Acharya's Jasa Bhasham, and to stay closely aligned with Anubhava. So either you are now enlightened or you're even more confused. I certainly enjoyed myself, and I hope you did too. Please forgive me for my mistakes and any confusions. I would be delighted to answer questions at the very end. Hari Om Tat Sat.
Hari Om.
Thank you, Vijayji.
Thank you very, very much for a beautiful introduction and exposition, Varaji. We're truly, truly blessed to have this succinct summary from you. Thank you very, very much. Yes, I'm sure we'll have a lot of questions and we will look forward to having it clarified from you. So we'll move on to this second speaker for today. Martina, she was so very busy and she wanted to excuse herself from making the notes, but look at the Mandukya, it pushes everybody because the whole purpose of Mandukya itself is to tell that you can break all the boundaries of your potentialities, and the time and space is nothing at all, right? For the free individual Atman. And she made her presentations, and here she is. Martina ji, over to you. Thank you.
Namaste, dear Shekhaji. Namaste, dear presenters, all the students. Very welcome. Bharat, thank you. It was a wonderful presentation. And okay, as we are very short in time, I will proceed immediately. The summary of the chapter 2, I have structured my whole talk on several layers of depth. The first layer is where I give a list of the main key mantras of the main karikas in chapter 2. But because of the lack of time, I would say at the moment we jump over that and we go to part number 2, the overview of chapter 2, Vyatatya Prakaranam. And hopefully we have the time to look at the mantras at the very end. So in this overview, we have basically 5 points. I would like to remind you that in chapter 1, everything is based on scriptural testimony, on Shruti, to reveal that non-duality. But chapter 2 relies strictly on human experience and on logic, yukti and anumana, to demonstrate what? That the waking world is just as illusory as the dream world. So the first point is the unreality, and that is expressed in Karikas 1 to 5, where Gaudapada constructs a formal logical argument establishing the parity between dream objects and waking objects. Precisely in 1 and 2, Karika 1 and 2, he speaks about the unreality of dreams. What is the observation? The observation is that objects in dream are unreal because they exist within the spatial boundaries of the human body, of the mind, where physical objects cannot fit. Furthermore, in dream, time is illogical because you can travel thousands of miles in 5 minutes of nap. Shankaracharya additionally says, when you wake up, you instantly realize that you never left your room. Space and time of the dream collapse upon waking. Then in Karika 4, he is equating the waking and the dream state. So first was the unreality of dream. Now we come to the equation between waking and dream. And he says, just as objects in a dream are known to be unreal upon wakening, so too are objects in the waking state unreal as well. The only distinction is that in dream objects are experienced in the mind, while waking objects appear outside. And that is very, very true. We can all relate to that because we know it from experience. Now, we should know that in every logical argument, we need 3 things. We need 1 pratigna, a premise. And what is the pratigna? Waking objects are unreal. Then, next is the reason. Why? Because they are objects of perception, drishyatva. And then we bring an example. Like what? Like dream objects. So, our statement is, waking is unreal. Why? Because objects of perception. They are objects of perception, drishyatva. And they are like the dream objects. Now we come to point 2. Criterion of non-existence. What is the criterion for existence or non-existence? That we know in Karika 6. That which does not exist in the end cannot truly exist in the middle neither. And Shankaracharya brings his explanation and says, in a mirage or in a rope mistaken for a snake, it did not exist before perception, and it ceases to exist after correct knowledge. Therefore, its appearance in the middle is merely an illusion. It's a projection. And since our waking world has a beginning and an end, we know it, its absolute existence is an illusion. Point number 3. Here, objections from other schools of thought are refuted, and that is from Karika 7 to 10. And Shankaracharya addresses objections raised by Purvapaksha. The first objection is the practical utility. And the Purvapakshi says, waking water, if you drink water in the waking state, it does quench your thirst, but it would not quench your thirst in the dream state, or vice versa. Dream water would not quench your waking thirst. And therefore, Purvapakshi says, reality in the waking world must be real because it has utility. I eat the pizza, my hunger is gone. I drink the water, my thirst is gone. Now Shankaracharya refutes this in the 7th Karika, and he says that practical utility is only valid within its own frame of reference. Dream water, only in dream, quenches the thirst. When you wake up, real physical water cannot quench your thirst in the dream state, just as dream water cannot quench your waking thirst. Therefore, utility is always relative. It is not absolute. It relates to that specific state in which you are in. Second objection is external versus internal. And Purvapaksha says, waking objects are perceived objectively by senses externally, whereas dream objects are private mental projections. Shankaracharya in 9 and 10 refutes that also, and he says, within a dream, your mind also creates a distinction between my thoughts are inside and the mountain is outside. The sense of external objectivity is generated entirely by the mind in both states. Fourth point is, who is it then who imagines the world? And that is answered in 11 to 16. If both dream and waking worlds are projections, who is then the projector? Karika 12 gives the answer. Vikshepa Shakti of consciousness is the projector. It is this self-luminous Atma who by its own power of Maya appears as the manifold universe and the various individuals. It appears. It does not transform. That is very important to understand. It does not transform. It appears. Shankaracharya adds that just as a rope is mistaken for a snake, so pure consciousness projects the feeling of being an individual, then projects an external environment for the jiva to interact with. So the individual is there, and now that environment comes together with that individual, because one without the other, it would not make any sense. What would you do with an environment if there is no jiva to experience it? Or vice versa, a jiva in a total void, what utility would it have? We will come back to that later. The fifth point is, what is the ultimate truth? And here in verse 32, chapter 2 reaches its culmination in one of the most famous verses in Advaita Vedanta. There is no destruction, no creation, no one in bondage, no sadhaka, no seeker, no liberated one. This is the ultimate truth. Shankaracharya in his Bashyam says that for the absolute standpoint, Paramarthika, duality was never born. Spiritual practice, bondage, liberation exist only from the perspective of empirical ignorance. Once you realize the rope, you understand the snake was never born, it never lived, it never died. Now we come to the third level, the deeper exploration of this Vaidakya Prakaranam. And that is mostly based on Shankaracharya's Bhashyam. The first point is deconstructing perception, the Drishyatva. Gaudapada in his Karikas, he does not simply claim that the world is false. He proves that anything that can be objectified as an experience is inherently dependent and not absolute. What is the mechanism of cognition? In both states, waking and dreaming, it requires a triad, a triputi. There is the experiencer, the drashta, experience object, the drishya, and the act of experiencing, drishti. What is the fallacy of substantiality? That is now the question. What we want to deconstruct. And what is the fallacy of substantiality? We assume that waking objects are real because they possess physical weight, density, persistence over time, as said before, also utility. And Shankaracharya points out that inside a dream mountain possesses equal density to our experience. A dream year feels like an actual year. The sense of physical substance is simply internally generated by the mind. It is not an objective proof of reality. Point number 2, the illusion of time and space, Desha Kala. In Karika 1 to 3, Gaudapada highlights how space and time are relative to the state of consciousness. In the dream state, what happens? You take 5 minutes nap. You are in a small bedroom in Rome, for example, but inside the dream, that person travels to India, spends 10 years there, builds a house, gets children, and what else? And how can that fit in 5 minutes? Shankaracharya analyzes and says, where did the space for India come from inside a human skull? It was an internal projection. Where did the 10 years come from in 5 minutes nap? Another mental projection. And now this you have to apply to your waking state. Waking space and time feel absolutely real only while you are in the waking state. The moment you sleep, the waking universe, with all its galaxies, solar systems, mountains, and whatever physical laws, history, it vanishes from your direct experience. So it is state dependent. Third point, what is the mechanics of projection, adhyasa? How does the one non-duality, the one consciousness appear as a universe of billions of objects and jivas? Karikas 11 to 16 explain the order of superimposition. We have the pure non-dual consciousness, Brahman, Atma, which is you, veiled by ignorance, veiled by Maya. The first projection happens that you as an individual ego appear, you, the individual jiva. At the same time, the second projection happens of the external world. Due to self-oblivion, consciousness forgets its unconditioned nature. And the primary thought, as soon as that individual jiva has arisen as reflected consciousness, to that thought I am, we add, I am this limited body-mind complex. Then the world creation is happening to support the ego's existence. The mind projects an entire environment of duality, friends, enemies, family, the laws, the objects, everything which we know. Again, the rope, snake rope analogy, which we have already mentioned several times. The rope never actually transforms. It merely sustains various false concepts. And so, in the same way, consciousness never becomes the world. It merely sustains the mental projection of the world. Tell me if there is a rope lying on the ground and you project out of fear, out of darkness, ignorance, probably you have vasanas in your mind due to some special trauma of snakes, and you see a snake projected on the rope. Would you ever see the snake if there would not be lying a rope on the floor? There would be no support. And that is how it happens. So there is some similarity between two objects, but then a false projection upon that what it is not. That happens. And the same thing happens to us in the three states of the mind. The next point is, what about the degrees of reality? We have to keep in mind that these 3 degrees are exclusive to Vedanta Advaita. The lowest one is pratipasika, it is subjective. And it is like in dreams, in daydreaming, or when you have a projection like a snake on a rope, a mirage border, and it pertains only to the individual mind. It vanishes, of course, upon normal examination. Then we have the empirical reality that is objective. It is available for everyone. And we call it Vyavaharika. And there you perceive, you experience your physical body, your house, your family, your setup, everything. And finally, the absolute, the Paramartika. It is unchanging across past, present, and future, independent of perception. It is Indriya Gocharam, pure consciousness, pure Atma, pure Brahman. It is you. So what should you remember of what we said until now? Chapter 2 does not at all say that the waking world does not exist on empirical level. It says the waking world does not possess absolute reality. Then what is the conclusion of all that? That we said in 32. If the entire spectrum of subject-object is illusion, what happens to the spiritual effort? And there Kadika 32 gives its absolute view and says there's no creation, na utpatihi. The world was never created. No bondage neither, na baddha. The self was never trapped in the body. No seeker, na sadhaka. There is no jiva that needs to meditate or to come to classes or something like that. And therefore, there is no liberation neither, na muktaha. Liberation is not an event in time, because consciousness was never bound. You are that consciousness. You are never bound. Even a total Ajnani who never was in such a class. And Shankaracharya notes that spiritual practice is like taking a medicine inside a dream to cure a dream illness. The medicine is part of the dream, but it wakes you up. Once you wake up, the illness and the medicine cease to matter. Point number 6. The characteristics of the ultimate truth we come to know in verses 33 to 38. What is non-duality? Duality is merely a vibration of the mind, manaspandita. When the mind is quiet through discrimination, duality ceases to exist. Freedom from attributes. Pure self cannot be grasped as this or that, nor can it be categorized by spiritual intellect. What is then the state of a sage? The realized individual lives unattached to the world, indifferent to praise or blame, pain, other conditions of body, mind, family, setup, anything, knowing all phenomena to be the non-dual Brahman. I take refuge in that non-dual, immortal, changeless, sorrowless, eternal truth, Brahman, the nectar of the three worlds, prostration unto that revered master, the glorious Gaudapadacharya. And now we come to the final point. And that is that I try to show to you that there exists a logical bridge between chapter 1 and 2. And in chapter 1, we have Karika 17 acting as a pratigna, as a thesis for chapter 2. Why did Gaudapada write that chapter 2 in the first place? So we should know that every formal argument requires a pratigna, a proposition. Then that proposition is followed by a hetu, a reasoning, and that reasoning is given by a drishtanta, by an example. And Karika 17 in the first chapter states, if the world of duality actually existed, it would undoubtedly cease to be. But this duality is mere maya. Non-duality is the absolute reality. Now, the statement of the thesis of this pratigna is a false premise. It has been brought in by an opponent who says, if you proclaim Advaitam, then seeing a world of duality, that world has to disappear. How is it that even for the liberated one, the world is still there? If the world were a real entity created in time, spiritual realization would require its literal physical destruction. And what is our verdict? That the world does not need to cease to exist, because it never came into existence in the first place. It is maya matram, pure appearance. And Gaudapada, who is the one who brought in the Ajativada, the theory of non-origination, which means literally the doctrine of non-birth. It belongs exclusively to Advaita, formulated by Gaudapada, and it claims that the absolute reality, Brahman Atman, never underwent any change, evolution, creation, or whatsoever. the universe, the individuals, bondage, liberation were never created in the past, do not exist now, and will never be destroyed in the future. Why not? Because creation is not an event. Duality is purely an appearance. Due to Maya, but from the absolute standpoint, from Paramarthika level, nothing was ever born. So that verse number 117 was our pratigna from the first chapter. Why then should be written the second chapter? Being chapter 1 relying on Shruti alone, but any skeptic, any dualist could reject scriptural authority. Therefore, Gaudapada dedicates this entire second chapter to prove the truth of Karika 17 by pure reason and by human experience. Proving Maya Matram, that it is made out of Maya, it's just a delusion, first through the dream parity, that dream equals the waking state in its unreality, from verse number 1 to 10. He uses the dream state as a Drishtanta to establish the Hetu. What is the Hetu? The whole world is nothing but an object of perception. Therefore, it cannot be real. Whatever is perceived cannot be real. But the waking world does not need to be physically destroyed. It only needs to be recognized as an object of consciousness, exactly like a dream. So the Hetu, our reasoning, is because it is seen, the world is seen, and therefore it cannot be true. Like what? Like the dream. How does duality appear without a real creation? That we find in 11 to 16. If the world isn't real, how does it seem so solid? Because of superimposition. The mind projects a jiva and an exterior world, like a rope mistaken for a snake. But the culmination in absolute non-creation we find in 32, where chapter 2 concludes by fulfilling that exact promise in 17, that there is no dissolution, no creation, no one in bondage. Because the world is Maya Matram. You need not destroy the world, because the world actually needs not to be destroyed upon enlightenment. Only the ignorance of its reality should disappear. And then, finally, as Karika chapter 117 serves as a proposition for chapter 2, when the objector asks, if I gain enlightenment, does the physical universe vanish? No, because a non-existent illusion cannot vanish. It only needs to be known as an illusion. And therefore, chapter 2 systematically proves this thesis by showing that waking experience shares the exact same illusory status as a dream. And so, in this section, a systematical reframing of Karika 17 is provided as foundational proposition that chapter 2 proves through logic. I also would like you to notice that in the 17th verse of chapter 1, we have the potential state. It does not say vidyate, it says vidyeta, the potential state. If it would be, if it were, it is a potential state. So it is not. And so the dualist objection, if enlightenment brings non-duality, does the physical world literally dissolve or vanish? The answer is no. Something can only cease to exist if it had really existed in the first place. The physical world does not physically collapse or disappear at enlightenment. It never came into real existence to begin with. It is Maya Matram, a mere appearance. You do not need to destroy anything which factually is non-existent. You get only rid of your illusion, dropping the adhyasa due to ignorance, like your fear of the snake vanishes the moment that you recognize it to be a rope. And so the same with Jagat. When you recognize your true nature as Satchidananda Brahman, Turiya Atma, the appearance of the universe vanishes intellectually instantaneously. And then here the following part, the small part, is again a revision which I wanted to give for the readers in a compact form so that you really can immerse yourself into this teaching. And the final word is, there is no dissolution, no creation, no one in bondage, no seeker, no liberated soul. This is the ultimate truth. And the final resolution, therefore, the world is Maya Matram. Enlightenment does not alter or destroy the physical universe. It simply destroys the ignorance, avidya, that attributed independent reality to the world. And so your shift in sadhana is to practice that spiritual realization is not an event that destroys the universe. It is the cognitive shift that cognizes the universe was never born. The world does not cease to exist, but its reality ceases to be believed. Okay, this was the end of my presentation. I think we are over time, so you have the slokas, the karikas, which I had given as the main key verses. So please revise them for yourselves. Thank you for your kind attention, and I pass on to Vijaya. Namaste, Hari Om.
Namaste, Hari Om, Martina. Fabulous exposition. So, with a lot of pristine clarity and understanding. Thank you for enlightening us. And how beautifully you roped in the Shruti Pramana, which flows in chapter 1 to the Yukti. So, by your own self reasoning in the states that you're aware. Thank you very, very much for exposition. We'll move on to chapter 3 by Nandakumarji. Over to you, Nandakumarji.
Hari Om to everyone. Thanks to everyone and pranam. I just wish to start with the praying the Guru Parampara. This goes with the famous sloka of Sadashiva Samarambha Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Parentam Madhya Guru Paramparam. This Guru Parampara, which started from Lord Sadashiva and Shankaracharya being the middle of it, and the Acharya still today, including the Shekharji, from where we are trying to learn about this Mandukya Karika. I bow down to all of them. And all my fellow speakers and sadhakas. This is for me to opportunity to learn and what are thoughts regarding the Advaita Prakaranam and trying to put forward. It was awesome invocation by Vijayaji, then the first Prakarana, which is Agam Prakarana, and the Upanishada, Mandukya Upanishada, covered by Bharatji, and thanks to Martinaji about the second chapter, which is about like a Vaititya Prakarana. Vaititya, it is something, is a base for like Advaita, and Vaititya, it is mentioned as like everything like illusory and Mithya, and from there the base is for the Advaita Prakarana. With this discussion, and there might be a little bit limitations on this discussion because we have a very limited time, and Vijayaji or Bharatji, just maybe let me know if I will exceed time. The talk we are discussing regarding the Paramarthik Satta, and this is the Vyavaharik Satta, here we are trying to discuss about it. And that's why there will be like a little limitation might be there. And Bhagavan Krishna, Lord Krishna, in the Gita, he says like, Yo Buddhe Parastata Saha. So the Tattva, what we are talking, which is like beyond the Buddhi. And Buddhi is like intellect. Intellect is the only entity what we have. And we are trying to grasp that Tattva, which is not possible, but even though we try to do that. There is one beautiful Richakam in Rigveda, which says like, Ekam Sat Vipra Bahuda Vadanti. The truth is the only one, but this is like, by wise people, it is says in like a different way. And that's why in the different Upanishads, that reference you will find maybe little bit different. And our main focus is about the seventh mantra of the Mandukya Upanishad, which is like a Nanta Prajnana Bahish Prajna. So initially the negation is there, and final, which is like a Shantam Shivam Advaitam, and that we are Advaitam non-duality that we are going to discuss. And the base for this Advaita Prakarana is again from the like a second chapter. And second chapter of Vaititya Prakarana, there is like one beautiful mantra comes, Karika comes, which is like a Nyate Dvaitam na Vidyate. So like upon realization, the self-realization, the duality is like no longer there. And the key teachings from the Advaita Prakarana is we have learned from Martinaji also, like the creation is not real, no real creation. All the world is like mithya. Dream state, we know that dream is it is not real. But even the Vyavaharik Satta, that is also not real. And that is what we try to learn from this. There is a beautiful story about like Ashtavakra and Raja Janaka. And Raja Janaka, he witnessed in dream that he became as like a beggar. And when he didn't got the bhiksha and all, and in the next day he went to his guru Ashtavakra and he asked, what is the real thing, whether the dream is real or this Vyavaharik Satta? And the Ashtavakra says, even this Vyavaharik, Hindi में जैसे कहते हैं कि अभी तुम जागे कहाँ हो, even that Vyavaharik, it is like a dream. So the people who are like have like a self-realization, for them it is like a Vyavaharik, it is also like a dream. But for me, I feel that I'm talking here, all these things we feel like a real thing. And this only Brahman is there, and that Brahman is something like we are beyond the like a time and space, and it's very hard to grasp that. And all the Upanishads and everything, it is pointing out to that Brahman only. And that's how that base for there. And when we are entering to these Karikas, and Mandukya Upanishad, it is one of the best Upanishads. Even in the Mukta Upanishad, it is said that Mandukyam ekam kevalam mumukshanam vimuktai. Mandukya Upanishad, only one Upanishad, it is sufficient to get the liberation. But that 12 mantras is not easy to understand. That's why Gaudapadacharya came forward and wrote about like 215 Karikas in 4 different chapters. And even that Karikas also is very hard for us to grasp. That's why Bhagavan Shankaracharya, he wrote about the Bhashyam. Even that Bhashyam also is not easy to understand. That's why Shekharji with us explaining all these things. And the Karika, first Karika, it chart with like what is the base for this Advaita Prakaranam. There are 48 Karikas within the Advaita Prakaranam. It's not possible within the 15 minutes to cover all the 48 Karikas, but maybe just important ones will go. And the first Karika is on the base of like a Krupan. Whoever is like leaving this world without knowing that Brahman is said as Krupan. There is a beautiful conversation within the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, and that conversation is there with Yajnavalkya and Gargi. And to get rid of this thing, even Gita also, 2.7 verse, which is like a turning point, where Arjuna is saying like Karpanya dosha pahata subha. And from there, Bhagavan is starting the Upadesha. And this, then this Tattva, how it is, and the Kenupanishada reference was given for the first Karika by Bhagavan Shankaracharya. And this Tattva is something like that. It's like a beyond, it is not, you cannot talk about like by your Vani, or it cannot grasp also by Yat Manusana Manute. By mind also you cannot judge about that Tattva. बट जैसे बोलते हैं कि हिंदी में कहा बोलते हैं कि ये वाणी का विषय नहीं है, लेकिन वाणी जिससे बोली जा सकती है. Speech cannot talk about it, but speech is spoken by that tattva, which is that Brahman. And Kenupanishad is also one of the beautiful Upanishad. And there is says like eye of eye, ear of ear, mind of mind. All those terminologies for us is like very difficult to understand. And that is the one tattva which is like behind the eye. Suppose like a person is tied and maybe his eyes are like open. So do that person can see outside? It is not at all possible, because the one has to be there behind the eyes. It is not there. That's why he is not able to see. And that is just like a base for like Karika 1. And from Karika 2, Bhagavan Gaudapadacharya is discussing about all this like Advaita Tattvam and Ato Vakshamam, and from there Gaudapadacharya is talking about these all Karikas. And wherever whoever sees like a duality, yatra nanatya pashyati. Whoever is seeing that duality, it is said like a Krupal. And that is like a reference from the Chandogya Upanishad. Then if we can directly jump on the seventh Karika, which is talking about there is metaphor, it is given about Akasha. This is na Akashasya Gata Akasho, that Karika 7. And here it is mentioned that the Akasha Tattva space, the space within outside and within the gutter, which is like within the pot, there is no difference. That is the analogy or metaphor given as an example. And just with that example, if we'll come that gata and again come to like a jiva, and the jiva is also considered as a gata. And in the Hindu religion, final rites, I think most of maybe knowing that ghata pot is broken, and that analogy usually we don't think is having some relations with all these Upanishads, tattvas, and all. Then when we move forward on the 11th Karika of third chapter, and it is saying Rasadayo Ye Kosha, and there is purely like a Taittiriya Upanishad reference is quoted there. And Bhagavan Shankaracharya is beautifully mentioned about this explanation on that particular Karika. And this this is about talking about like the Anandamaya Kosha. 5 koshas are there in the Taittiriya Upanishad. It is mentioned like Annamaya Kosha, Pranamaya Kosha, Manomaya Kosha, Vijnanamaya Kosha, and the Anandamaya Kosha. And this Atman or Brahman is like beyond that Anandamaya Kosha. And if you try to draw that maybe picture on a piece of paper and that 5 koshas, and maybe we are saying that internal one is the Anandamaya Kosha. Whereas all that paper behind or that Adhisthana, we are trying to forget that thing. Even there is like a beautiful analogy always gives on the when we watch movies on a screen, that screen is like a Adhisthana. And on that screen there is like fire, there will be like a flood of water, but that screen is not going to affect. That's how that tattva is there, Atman or Brahman, untouchable. And this, which is like beyond this all koshas, 5 koshas, this is what mentioned. And Bharatji already quoted about the reference of the Taittiriya Upanishad, Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam, Brahma. That Brahman is like a truth, that is knowledge, and that is Anantam. Anantam is like a beginningless. Since how long it is beginningless? That is the only answer we can give for that. Anantam. There is no any other answer for that. And when we come to like Mandukya Upanishad also, even 3 avasthas we know about like Jagruti, Swapna, Sushupti. And there also if you see, if you can draw that on piece of paper, but we are forgetting about that 4th one. On the basis of Turiya only, all that things are happening. And all this, if you see, we know about like Pancha Mahabhutas also, like Prithvi, Ap, Tej, Vayu, Akasha. And Akasha example, it is little bit given to the Brahman, because that is the one of the closest one. It is not ideally exactly, but that is little bit. And when if you go like one by one, like Prithvi Tattva, you can easily see it. Jala also you can easily see. Like Teja Tattva, maybe sun, you can easily see also. But there is something like when these tattvas are like Pancha Mahabhutas, like one by one, it is like very difficult to grasp that. Even like wood, that fire is there. But unless and until you are not going to rub, it is not going to appear. What about the Vayu Tattva? You cannot see, but only thing you can feel it. And beyond that Vayu, which is Akasha, space. And that Akasha Tattva is a little bit closer, it is mentioned to that Brahman. The Atman is actually beyond the Akasha. To grasp the Akasha itself is, for us, is like very hard to grasp. We do like maybe just like shifting our like homes and all. And we never think about some of these things. We take each and everything belongs to us. My sofa, my beds, and each and everything. But the thing, can we take Vayu from my one building to another thing? Or maybe that space from one building to another? You cannot. And within that space itself, we are surviving. Whereas within that Atman or Brahman, all these things are happening. That is about like Karikas, we reach up to like 15 Karika. And Then moving forward, the Karikas about like a 16 to 18, which is like a accommodation of Sikar and like a Mahavakya. And there, like the beauty of like a Shankar Bhashya on the even the Upanishad and Brahma Sutras also. Bhagavan Shankara, he is creating that question he himself. There is no questions from like a Purva Paksha or something. But why Bhagavan Shankaracharya did that? Because all the followers, they should not have that questions and they should not waste their time. And this is for us like opportunity that all the scripture is, everything is ready. Just we need to walk on that path. And there like a Purvaksha, like one of the questions it was arise. Like you are saying that Atman and everything is only one alone. Then why that Upasana? Then Upasana is also mentioned within the like Upanishad. And one of the example it is given like in the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, which is already saying that Atmavare Drishtavyo, Mantavyo, Shatavyo, Nididasitavyo. It is mentioned the Upasana should be done. Then how you are saying that Upasana should not be done? And Bhagavan Shankaracharya beautifully explaining about that, because there are like three different adhikaris will be there. There will be like a Manda Adhikari, Madhyam Adhikari, Yuktam Adhikari, and based on that, that Upasana will be there. Even the Gita also we know that about Trikanda Gita is there, like Karma Kanda is there, Upasana is there, the Jnana Kanda is there, and this is how the flow of structure of the Gita. First 6 chapter, then the another 6 chapter, which is like elevating from karma to jnana and upasana to jnana. And the Upanishad it is saying like Chandogya Upanishad, the tattva, which is like a ekmeva advitiyam. There is like a no difference. That is the only one tattva. Even Brihadaranyaka Upanishad it is saying like that Lord is there, Indro, Mayavi, Pururuya, Iyate. The Lord itself, he is taking like a different forms. And this tattva is in such a way that there is no difference. No dvitiyam, na asti. That is what it is mentioned in the like 18th Karika, I believe. And then when we move forward on the Karika number 26, and it is saying about so Esha Netiti Vyakhyanam. And that is purely from the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. No iti, no iti. How that Brahman is, you cannot explain. No iti, you cannot explain. And that netiti word, it came almost like 4 times within the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. And that's how that tattva is very difficult to. And the tattvam is like in the Kathopanishad also it is mentioned like Neha Nanasti Kinchana. There is no difference. All this Brahman is like a Sarvarn Kalvidam Brahma. Everywhere that Brahman is only thing is there. And when we move forward toward the like final concluding verses, there is another Karika which is about like a 36th Karika, which is talking about Ajam, Anidram, Aswapnam. And all those words for us, it is a little bit difficult to understand. And I think most of us, we are a little bit familiar with like a Bhagavad Gita. And maybe many of us then we are trying to turn with like Upanishad and maybe Brahma Sutra, maybe like it's like where very rarely it is known. And this particular Karika, which is 36 Karika, and I feel maybe like Kathopanishad, there is a beautiful shloka comes like 1.3.15, and it's very easy to understand. And we know the Stanmatras are there, like a Shabdasparsha, Rupa, Rasagandha. And how it is explained in the Kathopanishad, this is about like Ashabdam, Asparsham, Arupam. Now, Ashabdam means how you will explain that. It's very difficult. Asparsham, you cannot touch it. Arupam, you cannot see it. Then how to understand, how to grasp that tattva. And that is the depth of this thing like Advaita. And when we move towards like concluding things like 47, 48, like Swastam, Shantam, which is already mentioned in the like Upanishad also, Shantam, Shivam, Advaitam. Yesterday also we were trying to learn within the Gita, the Shantam, and Gita is asking question, Ashantasa Kuta Sukham. If the Shanti will not be there, then that how you will expect that Sukham. And that is the concluding things about like Advaita Karanam. And just to conclude entire chapter about Advaita Prakaranam and Bhagavan Shankaracharya's one of the quote. And Bhagavan Shankaracharya is saying like, Slokardhena Pravakshami, न कर्म grantha koti bhi. In the crores of granthas, whatever is mentioned, and I will tell the truth just within the half of the shloka. And what is that? Brahma Satyam Jagamithya Jivo Brahmeva Naparaha. Hari Om.
Hari Om Nandakumar Jasaji. Beautiful, beautiful. You did absolute justice, though I know 15 minutes is very less to establish Advaita Tattvam, but I think you did fantastic justice. Thank you very much. With your permission, Shekharji, it's what do you want us to do? Continue, because we have 3 more speakers and then a Q&A.
Yeah, please continue. Please continue, Vijaya.
Okay, thank you, Shekharji. So we have, thank you very much, Nandakumarji. So we will move on to the 5th topic, that is Mandukya Karika, chapter 4, which presents the Alata Shanti Prakaranam, wherein it establishes what is that firebrand and everything else, the patterns are illusion. So I think we will move on to listen to Krishnaji with this beautiful exposition. Thank you. Over to you, Krishnaji.
Hari Om. So with all the salutations to the Gurus and Shekharji and my fellow speakers and fellow students, it is a wonderful journey. And we're here about the presentation of the Alata Shanti Prakarana. So by the 3 Prakaranas before, actually the Upanishad completes. Upanishad completes in the sense that the whole logic has been given and the experiential way of the Shruti explanation has been done. But there are 100 verses in this one, Alata Shanti Prakarana, to actually consolidate what has been told in the previous 3 chapters. And some of the shlokas have been actually repeated here from chapter 1, chapter 2, and chapter 3 also. The reason is being it is the consolidation, but it brings the understanding. So what is this Alata and what is this Alata Shanti? If we just see the name of the Prakarana itself, Alata is the burning firebrand and Shanti is actually peace or quenching or stillness of the movement of this firebrand. So we will see the pictorial representation of it later, but it is the chapter. Please go ahead. Next slide. So the journey, what Gaudapada Acharya ji will be taking and Shankaracharya ji's explanation will be so fantastic to move us from where we are to the state that has been described as Turiya, but which is our own state. It is the recognition of that state that has been approached by various prakriyas. And using the Shruti as Atyaropa Apavada, he takes us into a journey actually. Unless otherwise we get into that journey, into that boat of Acharya ji which is taking us, we will be objectified again as a knowledge, as an intellectual knowledge. So let us reset ourselves. Right now, we will be seeing this one as individuals. No mantras to remember, but the very indication that what has been given the Acharya is the only that we are taking and observing our own self. So it has been told that the question is that one, how the world is appearing, this plurality is appearing, if it is oneness as been described in the previous 3 chapters. The Advaita Prakarana clearly states about the Paramarthika state, that it is not 2, it is the Advaita state. And all this plurality we are experiencing, how is it possible? This is the question that every seeker will be facing, and how this is appearing as many. And there, the reason, the mechanism of the reasoning that has been taken by Acharya ji is that who is seeing this one? Who is seeing this multiplicity? There is an observer, isn't it? We see that Drugdrusya Viveka Shekharji took some time back. The same way, we really go through that Sakshi Bhava, which has been observing my own body, my own mind, my own intellect, and also the world that has been showing by my Panchendriyas, the Gnanendriyas. So this is the experience which we are doing that one. That conscious me is the observer that has been taken, and observed is that whatever is the plurality, including my body parts, including my thoughts, including my concepts, what I understood of Mandukya Upanishad, everything is objectified and all is mithya. What is mithya? Mithya is not that it is non-existent. Mithya is a dependent existence. That means mithya, the thoughts are there, but the thoughts are because of me. As this conscious me enlivening the thought, that thought is taking form. And as long as I continue with that, I have this thought journey. And the same thing with the world of objects and relationships and everything. That my association always is there. That makes that world a reality. So that we will see that one. How do we traverse back into our own self? Oh, Acharya ji is taking us, taking the Shruti as that one. And for that, he gives the Drishtanta. The Drishtanta is the circle of fire as a firebrand. Firebrand is a stick that has been lit. And when we move it very fast, it creates a circle. And that circle is appearing. But is it really there? The circle that which is really we are seeing, experiencing, in our experience there is a circle, but whereas what is the reality is only the firebrand. Because of the movement that is happening, we see that one, that multiple points of appearance of the firebrand at different places, but it is happening so fast, so our eye can only recognize the circle, and it recognizes the same way the world also. So here the consciousness is the firebrand, and all the plurality is nothing but the consciousness appearing with different names and forms. But how do we achieve there? How do we get there? Who is realizing this one? How do we recognize that one? Is the basis of this chapter. And how he does that one? He does it wonderfully. Advaita is not excluding anything. So when Acharya ji is doing the criticism of other schools of thoughts, he is not criticizing as a different one. He is criticizing, bringing them as doubts into the sadhaka and removing those doubts, nissamshaya gnanam, that alone will center us into our own self. And not that one that how do I stand there? So he gives an abhyasa also of this asparsha yoga, that very establishing into that knowledge is that I have never been moved from here. The firebrand never became the circle. The firebrand is the firebrand, but as we move, it appears like that. And how do we traverse? Let us take the journey. Can we move on to the next slide, ma'am? Yeah. So this one is a biggest chapter of all the karikas, that the Agama Prakarana contains the Upanishad as well as other karikas. And then we got the Vaitadya Prakarana, which gives the logic. The logic has been covered. We are revisiting it. And then we got the Advaita Prakarana, which established the Siddhanta, that how do we establish into that oneness. But this one is consolidating all the three, how we are arriving from where we are. So right now our journey starts. So the observer lends existence to everything observed. So how do I do that one right now? It is the observer is observing the time also. Observer is observing the distance also. I am here. I'm not somewhere. If some of our friends are in UK, there is a distance between that, and there is a time lag, time difference between the US and India and UK. What we are seeing is like that. Acharya ji takes one example, that Akashavat Gnana. So he says that one, Akasha is only one, but we are seeing many things, many objects in the Akasha. And when we move an object from one place to another place, is the Akasha moving? No, the Akasha will not move. But it appears like that where we see the Ghatakasha, that when we take the Ghata from one place to another place, and it appears like the Ghatakasha has moved, but it is part of the one space. The same way the oneness, that which includes the Akasha also. Atma is subtler than this Akasha. So this Akashavat Gnana is very important thing. That is what the observer is, the Kutastha Chaitanya within. And this Upanishad is only centered on the individual transformation. It is not about the others. The others are only taken as a witness, what we are seeing. That is the objects, thoughts, and the world. The all others are included in that. Not only all others, our body, our mind, and our thoughts, and our intellectual concepts are the objects here. All are these mithya. Unless I am this conscious entity is there, they are not enlivened. And this is not denying the experience that we are going through. My thoughts are here, I am expressing those thoughts, and you are all hearing those things. And is it not real? Yes, it is real, like a dream. What does it mean? As we dream, we never give the reality of the dream when we wake up. The reason is that waking up is the one that really makes the dream as unreal. And the same waking up in all these three states is the turiya, the substratum of it. How do we get there? That these dependency that when we can see as an object, the neti that has been described by both I think Martinaji and as well as Nanduji, is really we are doing it right now. We are not telling that one neti does not exist. It is a dependent existence. And that one, can we move on, please? So when we get to this one, we are seeing that the firebrand has created a circle here, and we are seeing the circle. This we can experience it. We might have experienced it hundreds of times. Every movie we see is like that on the screen. It is just frames of different shots that have been projected on the screen, and we see the moving story as a connected one. But it is nothing but discrete photos that have been flashed onto the screen very rapidly. So when this movement is there, we are seeing this appearance. And is that appearance true? Is the question, the inquiry we need to see ourselves. So the fire is our consciousness, which is enlivening each of these objects. And the movement, the relationships, the very existential relationship movement that we are experiencing in the world, is that true, or is it an appearance? We need to question that one. Can we move on, please? With this analogy, when we go, so we are saying that one, that it is we are establishing like that Brahma Satyam Jagan Mithya is like Brahman is this consciousness, this enlivening consciousness, which is enlivening me, the so-called body, mind, and intellect, which is interacting with you right now, is enlivened by that consciousness. That is the Kutastha Chaitanya, that is enlivening that Mahakasha, like that means it is everywhere. It is beyond the Akasha also. And that oneness is the Brahman. That alone is Satyam. And the Jagat is only, the Jagat means Jayate Gachate iti Jagat. That things are moving very fastly within that one, depended on this Brahman, is not real, as the circle that we have seen before is not real. The same analogy that we have been taken, but the experience of this appearance is true. That is being accepted here. This appearance, that is what we are calling the Vyavaharika Satya, as Nandu Desai ji has explained. We can move on, please. So how do we do this one? How do we really, right now we are doing it, isn't it? So when we say that one, the existence, the very Brahma Satyam Jagan Mithya, when we are saying this Jagat, the plurality is only an appearance, and the very Brahman, that this enlivening consciousness is the only existent reality. That means ontologically, and that means that is the reality that gives the reality to all this dependent world. So the independent existence of this one needed to be first realized or moved on to. That means I need to collect myself from the world to my own. So what is that making me related with the world? My emotional being and my intellectual being. Intellectually, I have been attached to all these different thoughts and objects, and all these honor, dishonor, and all these things. And emotionally, I have these experiential relationships that I have stored them as vasanas. And these are the ones that making me to see this samsara. And the independent existence of mind is possible by having this neti neti. And then we see this one with this world has been originated, and how this has been originated. So here Acharya ji brings a lot of different logic. He brings various prakriyas also. We are not going into those prakriyas, but what is the intention of those things? We are visiting them because of the lack of time here. So we are coming to a conclusion that this is never originated. The world is never originated. So why it cannot be originated? We see that one, there is a cause and effect theory, and we see that Sajati Vada, and that means there is Sat before, and from that Sat, this world has come. The Sankhyas will be telling this one. We can see that one, that what does it mean? What does it mean is that there is a pradhana. Sankhya says that one, there is a trigunatmika pradhana, there is a substance that exists along with the Purusha, and from that reality, pradhana, the whole world has come, is the Sankhya theory says. And Acharya brings it, and he says that one, hey, it is a non-dual Brahman. Because if there is a duality, there is a second thing, that means there is multiplicity. And that multiplicity is not possible in this one Brahman, which I am, enlivening the second one. So the origination has been condemned in the way that he takes the help of all the different schools of thoughts and their yukti to condemn each other, because Advaita cannot exclude the other things, because it is the oneness. So it is not denying any one of those. It is denying their illusory discussions about or delusory discussions about this origination of the world. And the Nyaya Vaiseshikas or the realists even now, they say that one, it came from the Panchabhautika. That means it came from unreal to real. The asatvada, asatkaryavada is that one, that from the matter, the sentient world has come. That means there is a big bang, and from there onwards, the world has come, and all these beings comes into existence. And that also has been really condemned by Acharya ji here. But at the same time, the experience, appearance is not denied. It was called Maya. The reason Maya is, Maya cannot be explained because we can't say that Maya doesn't exist, and we can't say Maya is exist. So it is not a true existence. It is a dependent existence on Brahma. It is Brahma's Shakti that projecting this world temporarily in the Brahman itself. And as we traverse into our own source, we can come out of that one. And what is the cause of this Maya? That is the ignorance, avidya. And that has been discussed by Bharatji about the adhyasa and everything, that anyonya adhyasa and Mula Dhyasa and all this stuff will be the ignorance that is covering ourselves, is part of this Maya, and the totality appearance, which is Ishvara himself taking the These are all the vadas that as we see. Can we move on to the next slide, please? This is the logic, the reason that has been taken by Acharya. And as we saw that one, the effect is pre-existence, the pradhana is there, the trigunatmika, prakriti is there, that is a sat as per Sankhya. And from there the world has come. But if it is already exists, what is newly born? So if pradhana is already there, then Acharyaji asks the question that one, what is born out of it? Because there is mud, as we are going to see Chandogya and the Sadvidya, also that Murtikityeva Satyam. As we see that one, there is a mud pot and mud. If mud pot is nothing but the mud, Shekharji has gone elaborately on this discussion. The thing is that one, that if mud alone is there, the karya karana makes no sense. That means the karana exists in the karya. That means the effect contains the cause. But the cause alone is appearing as the effect, then there is no effect. The karana itself is there, the pradhana itself is there, there is nothing born. So there is only one sat that exists. And the Sankhya philosophy has been questioned by Nyaya Vaisheshika. It is not by Acharya. Nyaya Vaisheshika asks that what comes from sat? So then the question comes, Nyaya Vaisheshika says that one, there is a new effect from the unreality, that the matter has created the sat. The world has come from the matter, that the Big Bang theory kind of thing. Then because the Nyaya Vaisheshika goes with the padarthas, those basic padarthas, the molecules and all, they have been have evolved into this world, the different beings and all. So the question will be that how a non-existing thing can come into an existence. So it is not there before, and it is not sat before the sentiency, and the sentiency suddenly came into this world, and with the Big Bang it has been expanding, and it is going on expanding. Even the realists are the latest Nyaya Vaisheshikas, modernized Nyaya Vaisheshikas, we can say, because we got this molecule and particle theories and all goes on there. So how is this possible? So with the help of them only, Acharyaji condemns them and says that one, and the same thing with the Buddhist schools. Buddhist schools will say that one, hey, the world is not really there. It is from nothing, the Sunyavada. Or there is another school of Buddhism that says that one, it is Kshanabangura. That means it comes into the existence every second and goes back. Every fraction of the second it appears and goes back. So that is the way that it comes. Then Acharya ji says that one, no, there is a existence. Who sees this one? Who is observing this one? It comes every second and goes off. That consciousness is that sat, and that ekameva sat is that one. And that is what is the Vedantas. The unborn reality never becomes many. It is only a vivarta cause. Vivarta means it is appearing as many, but never become. And that is what is coming into the Asparsha Yoga. So the knowledge free from the doubt is very important to have this conviction. Even though we have the Siddhantic knowledge of Advaita, that is not sufficient. When we are contemporarily hearing many theories about this one, science comes and all the other perspectives comes, and then the doubts will come. And how we will be coming out of the doubt, the road has been paved by Acharya. That can be extended with the latest religions and all. Can we move on to the next slide, please? So I think this has been discussed by our friends in the before this one also, Ajati. So the thing is that one, that it is never born. So that there is nothing that has been called that it has been born. Why we can't call it is only appearance. And why there is only one reality, and in that reality this appearance is there. So it cannot be that a second thing that can be really exists. It is a dependent exists, That's why it is never born. That is the logic as well as experiential path. We need to traverse into our own self because he is rooted. I mean to say, this Brahman has been rooted within us to get into this oneness. There is no other way. This Upanishad has been pointing it out that one, come and wake up into your Turiya state. That is not a state, that is under of all these states. Can we move on, please? So how do we do this one? This Asparsha Yoga is that this reality, this oneness is actually Asanga. And it is Asparsha. Asparsha means you can never come into contact to that one. So yato vacha nivartante aprapya manasa saha. The Taittiriya Upanishad says that one, that what does it mean is whatever we think, whatever we think of this chintana, whatever the vichara we do also, we cannot reach there. Then how do we reach there? This is the one that Upanishad takes here, the very leap from that it is not a parinama, as we see that one, the oneness is not like a touched one that comes into a different existence, into a different form. No, 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 it is not that one. It is never changing. It is that firebrand. It is only the appearance of the circle or square or any other form, that because of the movement. And the same thing here also, I need to become still and I need to have this Asparsha Yoga with the knowledge of Turiya. I have been getting into this Asparsha Yoga. This has been for, it has been claimed. Yoga means join actually, isn't it? Yoga is to join, yoke. But it is Asparsha Yoga is actually told that wonderfully that it is a yoga that needed to be practiced, that I am Asanga, and never it has been touched by anything, and witnessing everything, that is only an appearance, coming into that conclusion. How can I do that is given further down by various slokas by Acharya ji. Can we move on? So this Turiya is not a passing state. How can I get in there? It is like the very analogy that Jivo Brahmaivana Paraha, I am alone is that Brahman, is the movement, stilling the movement actually. What does it mean? I have been moving around, vibrating into the world. I myself have been creating this world and showing up in every form. And like a dream, I am accepting this appearance. And how can I come back? I am seeing that one, my habitual idea is I am this body and I am this mind. I am seeing the world as an individual. And from there, I am coming into the discrimination that I am the witness. Shekharji took us onto the path as Acharya is taking Acharya's vehicle. The thing is that one, the very discrimination, the very identification, that the intellectual knowledge that makes us that these things which I observe are just appearances, including my body, including my thoughts. And with this discrimination, I stand alone. And then I recognize that my nature is that Brahman, which is non dual, which is enlivening the whole world. And Jivo Brahmaivana Paraha, this Turiya is a recognition. It is not a passing state like dream or Sushupti or waking state. It is underlying substratum of all these, always existent, beyond time, right now, is the indication that has been given. Can we move on to the next slide, please? This is the resolution. And this resolution, how can we see that? How can we do this practice actually? He has given that with the Om, that as we say that, I think it has been explained by our previous speakers also, that A, U, Ma, these are the ones that are representing the whole world, the appearance of the world, coming with all the words that comes through the mouth, starting with A, that the whole world of the Jagrata Avastha has been indicated there. The U is the projection of in the dream state, and is the one that the Sushupti, where I don't know anything, the Prajna state. These are all the shifts in the consciousness. The underlying silence is indicated to this Turiya. And as I do this meditation, I am traversing into myself from this world of plurality into the projection of the mind, into the sushupti of the vasanas, encountering them and abiding into the knowledge of self, the oneness, the non-dual reality, that what I am, Jivo Brahmaiva Paraha. Can we move on to the next slide, please? So this is the conclusion, that where the observer is the Satyam, it is also part of discrimination. The observed is Mithya. The experience is accepted like a dream. It is never rejected. That the world is not there is not what Advaita is saying. The world is dependent on me, and the world is dependent on this Brahman. That is what is Mithya. And the Mithya is Sakale Satyavat Bhati. And nothing truly born is not really that saying that one, that nothing is born as this appearance. The appearances are moving continuously. But as I really establish into myself this unborn consciousness, there is nothing born, is the reality. That is right now is the truth. And it is not something that it happens in time, because time is the creation of this mind. Right now is beyond the time. Whenever we move on to that oneness within us, within the world, everything, that means whatever I observe is also Brahman. Whatever the observer, the subject and object relationship ends there, the oneness only remains. Everywhere I see this reality, the reality in the world, I see that one, that is nothing but Brahman, that oneness. And with that, we'll conclude this. Hari Om.
Hari Om, Krishna Garu. Beautiful, beautiful. It is such a beautiful, it's a joy to hear the way you have expounded us the Alata Shanti. It's like when we chant Om Shanti and then Om, and then before we start the Om, how do we resolve into this gap between two Oms in the silence? So it was that kind of a session wherein chapter 1 and chapter 2, chapter 3, where it has actually completed, and how you're giving such a dot of pause and a full stop to it by resolving the entire prapancha in our mind and showing us way to Advitiyam, Shivam Shantam Advitiyam. Thank you very much, Krishna Garu. Thank you very much. So we'll move on to topic 6, which is the overall summarization by Ramachandra. Over to you, Ramachandra.
Yeah, thanks, Vijayaji. Yeah. So I think since I have many slides, so you may have to quickly go through, since I don't have control. So I will tell next. Okay. Yeah, salutations everyone. So my first salutations to Om, the Parabrahman, my Sadguru Sri Satya Sai Baba, and the Guru Parampara, Gaudapadacharya, Govinda Bhagavad Pada, Adi Shankara, and the Pratyaksha Guru, Sri Shekarji. Salutations. So next. Yeah, so the agenda is, so I will actually present my presentation in 2 parts. One is my creation part. The other one is a path to realization. Why? Because I felt the Tattva Bodha, so I would be dealing with most of the Tattva Bodha concepts to understand the problem and the creation. And then we will see at the means how to get the realization in a Mandukya Upanishadic way. Next. So here I would like to present the understanding of the Upanishadic Brahman. So what is this Upanishadic Brahman? So Tattva Bodha says so. So Nitya Vastu Ekam Brahma. But when it is one, so who is this Maya? So Maya is nothing but the power, the creative power, the concept, like the Shakti of the Brahman, which is Trigunatmika, Sattva, Rajas, Tamu. So in Sanatana Dharma, so the same is treated as Parameshwara and Parameshwari, so which are inseparable. They are not separate. They are never separable. So like the walk and its meaning, like any word and its meaning, since they are not separable. So similarly, so Parvati, Parameshwara, the Brahman and its Shakti are never separate. So simply again, so who is doing this whole creation? Vyaktam Ambamayam Sarvam Avyaktam tu Maheshwaram. The Maheshwara, the Brahman concept is Avyaktam, whereas the whatever is expressed or manifested, created, it is all Amba, the Divine Mother. We can also call, say, Parameshwara as Divine Father and Divine Mother. Next slide, please. Yeah, here, so the Shakti, the Maya Shakti, which is Trigunatmika, Sattva-rajas Tamo Gunatmika. So she actually, I can just say she. So she basically projects the creation. So the creation, the very first. So she creates the very first subtle elements, which are Akasha, Vayu, Tejas, Apa, and the Prithvi. So she sets the stage. We will see in the coming slides how she basically. So what I would like to present is here. Because in Advaita there is only one, but when we have multiple things, all the problems, so she basically creates all the challenges, whereas the consciousness has to actually solve all the challenges and win through. So that's how we'll see how the Divine Mother is setting the stage. Now she has created all the 5 subtle elements, and which is again each element again has got Sattva, Rajas, Tamo, Tamas aspects. Next, please. As we have talked, so now she is creating the stage. So as each element has got Sattva, Rajas, Tama aspects, let us examine the first from Sattva Guna of each element, what happened. From Akasha. So Akasha produces sound. So that is first attraction. Now she has to create some sensor. So the sensor is nothing but Indriya, the Sotrendriya. For Akash, our sound, she has created Sotrendriya, similarly Vayu, which is again touch, Tvagindriya, so again Agni, then form, Chakshurindriya, again Jala, taste, Rasanendriya, and Granendriya. So from individual Sattva aspects of all these elements, she has created these 5 Jnanendriyas, and collectively she has created Antakarna. The Antakarna is nothing but a processing unit, because there is some attraction and there is some sensor. All these inputs have to be processed by the central processing, which is unit, which is Antakarna. Next slide, please. So now we are dealt with the Sattva Guna. Now the Rajo Guna, what happened is, so she has created the Karmendriyas, Pancha Karmendriyas, Vak, Pani, Palo, Payopasta, and the collective Rajo Guna from all the 5 elements she has created. The Mukhya Prana, which actually acts in 5 different ways: Prana, Apana, Samana, Udana, Vyana. Now next slide, please. So now, so far, she has created only subtle infrastructure. Now she is going to create the gross elements. So what she has done from the 5 subtle elements, she has made 2 parts of each element, and half part of each element she combined with 4 parts of other elements. That's how she created the gross 5 elements, which are Akasha, Vayu, Agni, Jala, and Prithvi. So from these 5 elements, she is going to create all the bodies, the Jiva's bodies, and also the whole celestial, all the creation. Next slide, please. So like that, so she created all the gross 5 elements: cosmic manifestation, and again celestial creation, and planetary systems, Earth, and she also created some it is suitable to life. I mean, that is also she has created. So that is how, and flora and fauna, the whole stage has been set now. So she has created different creatures, and man and woman have been created. So next slide, please. So having set the stage, now, so let us understand the absolute consciousness and the reflected consciousness. So the consciousness is one, the absolute one, which is Brahman. But now she has also created the mind, the antahkarana aspect. So, so that's how the absolute consciousness, when reflected in the mind, it is capable of its own light. Just like a sun reflecting from a moon is capable of illumining the world, the earth in the night. So similarly, this mind, so all the faculties also, so it is powered by that reflected consciousness also. So as I told you, the divine Father and divine Mother, they are all never separable. So all the faculties, everything is that manifestation of the divine Shakti. So here, now here actually we get the Jiva. Okay, so the body-mind complex, which is nothing but it is not Jiva. It is actually an Upadhi. It is a casing. It is a casing for the consciousness. But that is not absolute consciousness. It is a reflected consciousness because it is within the scope of the mind. Next slide, please. Now, let us see. So what happened? See, now the actual game. So the game is between the mother and father. Okay, the divine Father and divine Mother. Now, once the absolute consciousness is reflected in the mind, it is blindfolded of what? The Swaswarupa Jnana. So that consciousness now a Jiva doesn't know about. So that is the main ignorance. That is the main ignorance which is actually driving the whole journey of the Jiva. Now, again, he identifies himself with the body and mind, the Jiva, because he is ignorant of his Swaswarupa Jnana. Then he does many acts and so like that. So, yeah. So here, now let us see, actually the game of life starts. Now, as others also told, is it actually a creation? For example, if I am there in front of a mirror, I see my reflection. If I keep some 20 mirrors, so 20 reflections would be there. So that is a Maya. Actually, there is no creation. So Mother created the reflecting medium, and the Father, divine Father, actually reflected in that, and that's how the reflected consciousness is created. And she's also created the challenge. Now, Mother actually gives various gifts like experience, relationships, desire, and suffering. Suffering is also one of the gift of the divine Mother, where she basically breaks the ego of the person built in over a period of time out of ignorance. And ignorance also she puts it because it creates the journey of discovery. Unless until I have ignorance, I cannot start my journey. Okay, next slide, please. Yeah, that's how this Jiva, that reflected consciousness, so goes through multiple janmas. Okay, and so that's what is the slide showing. So next slide, please. Yeah, so now we need to understand what is the trap. So the trap of the Jiva is these 5 Vishayas. The 5 Vishayas are nothing but the 5 Vishas. So only because of this trap, so now what is happening, he is ignorant of his Swaswarupa, and he is getting trapped by these senses, all these Gandha, Rasa, Rupa, Sparsha. So that is how his mind is locked up. The consciousness is, the reflected consciousness is locked up in the body-mind complex. Next slide, please. Yeah, that's how he is born. So he is basically the bond is like he has no knowledge of himself. Then he has avidya, ignorance, and adhyasa, superimposition. That's how he developed various bondages. Now, even the chains of imagination like kama, krodha, lobha, moha, mada, matsarya, all these are his imaginations, which are actually locking him in the body-mind complex. Now, next slide, please. That is the problem. That is the main problem of the Jiva. Let us see our next slide. Yeah, now let us come to how the solution. So this locked up consciousness, this locked up reflected consciousness, not the absolute consciousness. Now what is happening is now he means how to get out from this locking up. So that's how he does some karma. Out of some good karmas, he Mahapurusha Samsraya. So he encounters some guru and all. So the guru teaches, Guru Bodha will be there, and also Shruti, Smriti, Purana. So these basically set up again the solution path. So far he has been in the problem path. Now he is coming to the solution path. So then he slowly now pursues that path. So pratyahara, dharana, dhyana. That's how Samavi. So that's how he is released now. Next slide, please. Next, please. Sorry, previous one. Sorry. Yeah, so this I think we completed. Yeah, so that's how the solution now. We will actually go through the solution path. So in next slide, please. So out of various now solution now, which came in time. So one such wonderful solution is provided by the Mandukya Upanishads. It basically uses three tools. One is time and states. Very, very common to all. I mean, we all speak in terms of time. We all experience the states, avastha-traya. And we also very well understand the pranava, which has got A-U-M, and also Amatra. So basically Mandukya Upanishad, very shortest Upanishad, uses these tools to explain the truth. Next slide, please. Yeah, so from here now we will traverse. So what exactly is taught by Mandukya Upanishad? The very first and second slokas, the very first mantra, actually mantra talks about Bhuta Bhavat Bhavishya. So that this time, and there is another aspect of the time which is timeless, beyond. So that is how it basically compares the four parts: past, present, future, and beyond. So what it says is this whole thing is nothing but is because of the Brahman. The Brahman only, it is Maya Shakti of the Brahman, which is creating all this fabric of the universe, the time. Okay, that first mantra. Second mantra talks about the states. Okay, the waking state, dreaming state, and deep sleep state. So, and of course, the Turiya, the fourth one is also. So even so, across all the three states, so it establishes the presence of only the. So now, as we said, the reflected consciousness, which is like a moonlight, is nothing but actually the light of the sun. So similarly, so whatever we are experiencing, all the faculties, the powers, and everything are because of the absolute consciousness. That is what is taught by the second mantra. Next slide, please. Yeah. So before I go to the next mantras, I would like to understand. I would like to present. So the Saptanga and 19 mukhas as this is the container, Upadhi as created by Divine Mother. So the Saptanga is nothing but the heaven, sun, space, air, fire, water, earth. So these are the Saptangas. So this is what is the infrastructure. This is a stage, and also the 19 mukhas. 19 mukhas are nothing but the 5 Jnanendriyas, 5 Karmendriyas, 5 Pranas, and the 4 Antakarana. These 19 become actually the platform, which are nothing but the challenge to the reflected consciousness. Okay, so now the reflected consciousness is will be got out of ignorance. Then again, the knowledge path, it has to again realize it has to transcend all these faculties. Let us see. So the self, the one reality. Now, as you see in the right part, the absolute consciousness reflected in the mind. So is working through the entire infrastructure. So, and we are bound. So I'm thinking I am the body, I am the mind, I have the relationships, I have a bondage to the world around. So I am enjoying only. But so now actually that objective is I should realize who I am. I have to transcend all these challenges posed by the Divine Mother. Now, yeah, so that is what I want to understand the present Saptangas and 19 Mukhas. Okay, so these are external facing doors of and Pancha. Yeah, next slide, please. Yeah, so here, Mandukya Upanishad in 3 to 6, the mantras, first is Jagrat Avastha, as explained in the previous slide. Again, in the Jagrat Avastha, the reflected consciousness is equipped with the Saptanga and the Ekonavimshat Mukha, 19 Mukhas. So, where the consciousness words in the outward way, so outward awareness, whereas in the second avastha, so it is inward, and again they have the saptanga and the 19 mukhas, and it enjoys. So in the very first Jagrat state, it enjoys the gross objects. In the second state, it enjoys the subtle objects, whereas Shushupti, yeah, so no desires, no dreams, undifferentiated mass of consciousness, full of bliss, enjoy of the bliss. And the fourth, which is nothing but, so which is a Lord of all, the one behind all these three. So what we need to understand, the whole drama, the whole, all this, whatever is happening, all the three stages is nothing but the play of the absolute consciousness, which is beyond all that, which is powering continuously. The next slide, please. So the seventh, of course, so the Mandukya Upanishad 7th. So I understand this as a very nice definition of the absolute consciousness, which is na antah prajna, na bahish prajna, as like in the wakeful state and dreaming state. And na ubhayata prajna, na prajnanaganam, na prajnam, na aprajnam, adrustam, avyavaharyam, agrahyam, alakshanam, achintyam, avyapadeshyam, then ekatma pratyasaram, prapanchopashamam, shantam, shivam, advaitam. Okay, so this is actually the which we have. So how we can experience this? Only as a reflected consciousness through jnana, if I can transcend the mind. The reflected consciousness is within the scope of the mind, but if I can transcend the mind, I can experience this state. So, but how we are actually in the sleep, for example, I am in the wakeful state and dreaming state and sleep. So we are actually transcending the mind and the body, but we are unconscious there. But so what the Upanishad says, we have to do through a meditative way. I have to inactivate all my senses, body, mind. That's how I transcend. And then the nature of the mind is vikalpa. So I should actually make it nirvikalpa and stay in that state. Then I can experience the Turiya state. Next slide, please. Yeah, so the Upanishad also teaches the ways how to actually practice this. So akara, ukara, makara, and the matra. So it basically maps. This is a nice mapping of the states to various states and the absolute consciousness. Next slide, please. So here, how we can do the Turiya practice. So as told in Kata Upanishad 2.1.1, Paranchikani Vetruna Swayambhu, So by design, by default, all the faculties are outward, Vyuttana Chitta. So they're flowing outward. So so I, as a sadhaka, as a reflected consciousness, I have to inward. I have to turn them inward. So that is what is suggested by that Kata Upanishad. And I also do this. My Sadguru actually teaches the right one, where so we have to use the Omkara, Om chanting as a Dhanasu, as an arrow, and as a bow, and we have to shoot each faculty like 5 from. So this actually is prescribed for 21 times every day, where for each of the faculty we have to shoot to integrate with the absolute consciousness. We have to transcend the mind. So that is what is the practice prescribed. And next slide, please. So Upanishad in the 9th mantra basically talks about Akara Upasana, which is actually fulfillment of worldly desires, leadership and influence, confidence and capacity, mastery over the world, harmony in life, spiritual foundation. So this is basically Akara Upasana, which results, and the mantra talks about that. Second, next slide, please. Yeah. So the 10th mantra talks about again Ukara Upasana. As I told you, so it is actually raises the stream of knowledge, and also both inner and outer integration becomes equal. Samachitta and does not take birth in non. So a person who does Ukara Upasana, so what it says basically, he doesn't take birth in non-knowers family. So then lastly, the spiritual growth continues. Next slide, please. Yeah. So the 11th mantra, so which basically talks about Makara Upasana. So where that absorbs everything. So this all names, forms, thoughts, and experiences. Even in Brahmari also we do this. So merge into the causal state and becomes absorbed totally inward and depressed and recharge. So these are the various effects of this meditation. Experience of causal bliss, freedom from suffering. Yeah, next slide, please. Yeah, so this is actually Amatra Upasana. We have to actually meditate on the silence between two Om chantings. So that is actually, so that's how we can transcend. So how to realize the 4th state. So this through practice we can actually get to this state by doing more and more of Amatra Upasana, which is nothing but silence. So we dive deep into the silence. So that's how we can transcend. So I think I might have exceeded the time. So this is all. Thanks, everyone. This is my end. Salutations. Thank you.
Thank you, Ramchandramurthy Garu. So actually the whole idea is to transcend the time and space. So all of us are in that mode. Thank you for a wonderful presentation. You just started from the preparatory steps. That's really, really wonderful. Thank you very much for a beautiful presentation. Shekharji, would you want me to continue?
Yeah, please continue, Vijaya. Let's finish this today.
Wrap it up today. Okay, so it's so exciting. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I want to first thank Shekharji for the experience that he gave to all of us. And as we always say, that Dhyana Moolam, Guru Murti, Puja Moolam, Guru Padam, Mantra Moolam, Guru Vakyam, Moksha Moolam, Guru Kripaha. So it is a kripa of my Guru. It's a kripa of Shekharji. It's kripa of all the students and kripa of all the speakers that have enabled me to have this experience today. After having gone through all the great speakers and the way they have expounded. I don't think we really need any further session going forward. It's just the kripa, as I rightly said, it's a kripa of Shekharji that why don't you take up this? As I always say, I stand nowhere in front of all. It's after we finished 2 years of 9 months of presentation of Mandukya, where I stand is I stand humbled. I absolutely grateful and with my bosom full of gratefulness and thankfulness to Adi Shankara and Gaudapadacharya and Guru, my Guru, and then Shekharji and all of you. I always say that this is my first step. This is how I start walking. This is how I started reading the alphabets. This is how I wrote and memorized. As ignorant kid, I did a lot of foolish things, and now to continue to do so with audacity to take up my presentation after all of you giving up great presentations. One more of my such stupid attempts. As Gyandev Maharaj says, eagle and Garuda fly in the sky. A butterfly too can, for the sky is large. Can it not? When giant elephants drink water from the river, an ant too can, for the river is large. Can it not? Hundreds who have given these exponents on Mandukya Upanishad, and I would give my small bit part, not to tell what I know, but to share what I have and seek all of your blessings. To experience the fruit of 2 years of 9 months of the effort by Shekharji, of the patience of all of you. Accept me as a child, accept me as your sister and brother, and washing all your feet by my thought, where now I reserve the God there. May all forgive the audacity. So as we start the Moksha Purushartha, so this is a very beautiful, I never thought, because the entire, whatever Upanishads, all Upanishads only is going to talk on only one thing is, right? So Ekam Sat Vipra Bahuda Vadanti. The truth is the same. Every sage says the same thing. But what we need to really understand here is whatever Upanishad that we take, only going to point to at how you are not different to the Paramatman. There is no difference. There is only one unitary consciousness, and that is you. Right? As it says in Brahmananda Valli, it has been shouted out today multiple times, Brahma Satyam Jagat Mithya, Jivo Brahma Ekana Paraha. So having known that, so what is it that we need to do? So I would always pitch today's session from how practically can I take this Upanishad, because we've had the concepts, we had clarity over what this Mandukya Upanishad is taking us through. Now, how do I really use this, as Ramachandraji rightly put, how do I use this arrow and the bow to hit, to pierce through all these panchakoshas, to pierce through all the layers of likes and dislikes, to pierce through all the criticisms and then expectations that I have old ragas and dveshas, and hit the goal called Parabrahman. So having that as the title, why the Mandukya Upanishad is considered the definitive scripture for understanding Moksha Purushartha, especially. Slide 2, please. Next one. And I just realized, Bharatji, that I have 12 slides. How beautiful, right? We have 12 shlokas. I never realized that. And I really want to thank you in specific for being patiently going through all our presentations of not just 5,000 plus today's presentation too, and creating it as we ask you to do. Shatakoti Naman to you. So Moksha Purushartha refers to the liberation as one of the 4 traditional aims, right, Purusharthas in our human life, as per the Hindu philosophy. Let me break this down a little properly. Look at the stacks there that has been presented, but actually they are not those stacks. It's just how sometimes AI gives and sometimes our brain thinks. Yeah. So the by definition moksha is dukkha nivritti and sukha prapti. Well, all of this I got it by reading and by the attending the classes of Shekharji and through my guru. But if I have made any mistakes, through my innocence, I've always said, excuse me. So in fact, the only dukkha nivritti, there is no sukha prapti. Since sukha prapti is incidental upon dukkha nivritti, it was ever there. Unfortunately, because of the dukkha, we are not able to experience the sukham inside, underlying. Unfortunately, we try to lead the materialistic life, turning ourselves outward, investing all our energies into the Sukha Prapti. But the samsara or the objects of experiences have these three important features, namely, we call it as bad. Right? That's bad. Bad here is Badakatvam, Asashwatam, and Dukhalayam. As long as we chase these materialistic pleasures to obtain the Sukham, the joy is only short-lived and fades away, leaving us high and dry, back into the pool of Dukkham. Hence, Upanishad want us to turn our focus within towards the Dukkha Nivritti more so, ending the samsara, to falsify all the objective experiences to be the source, to falsify those experiences and to go into the source of joy. Upanishads want us to realize that we are the embodiment of Ananda. Sat Chit Ananda is our, as Shekharji always says, that is your Swarupa Lakshanam. That's our Atma Lakshanam. Realizing which our sorrow immediately, instantaneously end. The god chewing the dog ecstatically chews the bone with intensity, not because the bone has something to offer, because it is its own blood. It's chewing and tasting its own blood and relishing it to the core and liking it to be the best feast, right? So this is what it is. The happiness is well within us. Unfortunately, we are searching it outside in futility. Ignorance of our true nature is the root cause of our sorrow. And therefore, moksha is the highest of the purusharthas. Moksha helps us to recognize our true nature, true state as Turiya. Having said it, let me correct myself that it is not a separate state. It is the only state. That state of Turiya, the silence and ever-present awareness underlying all experiences. The four purusharthas, as we could see, the dharma, artha, kama, and the moksha. There is a rhyme and rhythm for this madness too. So it has to start with always dharma. Righteous duty, ethical living, one's proper role in cosmic and social order creates an interdependence with the entire cosmos that it's been created, of course, in our illusion. And then artha is a material prosperity, wealth, security, and means of livelihood. All these prepositions typically comes for, as Shekharji says, the junior student. But this is the way only to go to that highest transcendental experience of moksha. Kama is a pleasure, desire, aesthetics, and sensuary enjoyment within the framework of or boundaries of dharma. And when all these three are rooted to the highest goal of moksha, and that's when you would see your own self in glowing in resplendence, liberation, freedom from the cycle of birth and death and samsara. And why moksha is considered the summum bonum, or the highest good, the welfare of the welfare, the ultimate towards which everything else points out. Because the first three purusharthas operate within this empirical world, and we have just now falsified all of them. So they help a person live well, prosper, enjoy life while fulfilling the social obligations. But they're all still bound by desire, dualism, subject-object relationship, self, non-self relationship, full of impermanence. Even the greatest wealth or the pleasure eventually fades or leaves you wanting more. Roti kapda makan or roti kapda makan. There is no end to the greed. Moksha is entirely different in its kind, not just in degree. It isn't another achievement stacked on top of the dharma, artha, kama, as you saw in the picture, but it's the recognition that the very seeker who was chasing all these goals in essence, already whole, already free, already identical with Brahman, as Mandukya explains and makes us to experience, as it goes in Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamadachyate. Slide 3, please. Appreciate. Thank you. So we would see key characteristics of moksha purushartha and how beautifully it blends with, yeah, that's the one. Yeah. So how it blends well with the Mandukya way of presenting us the moksha. It says that is nisreyasa, means it is of the best wish. Subhayecha, we call it as supreme good, superior to any worldly want that you can think of, any worldly good that you can think of. While dharma, artha, kama are abhyudaya, means it is in the pravritti marga, worldly flourishing. Moksha is beyond the just flourishing. It's the cessation of the very need to flourish, because the false sense of lack, that is apurnatvam, ends there. And this establishes this experience of purnatvam, as I just now said. And the other characteristics, the next one is it's self-sufficient. It is, as we say, right, the status of Turyam is independent. It is swatantra, as we just celebrated our swatantra yesterday in August 15th. Unlike wealth or the pleasure, which always point towards something else, that if I had this, I would be happy. Agar wo mujhe mila to main bahut khush hongi. Ab mujhe nahi chahiye because I don't like this. I have raga towards it. I have desha towards that. I want money for this purpose. I want pleasure because I lack it. Moksha is not a means to anything further. It's sought for its own sake. If I were to ask you, where is the sweetness and taste in the mango fruit? Can you point out? No, because it is in every atom of that fruit. Everywhere is the fruit, the rasa of the fruit. There is nothing like, because of this part of the fruit, that it is sweet. Mango's taste pervades the entire fruit. This exactly is the Sutra 2 from the Narada Bhakti Sutra. He explains the Prema Swarupa as it is like a juice in the mango. It is all pervading. And that is your embodiment of Ananda. Similarly, moksha is not a means, cause of any further happiness. It is the cause and effect too. It is the hetu and the phalam, because that alone remains. It doesn't, the third characteristic is it doesn't negate the other three, that is artha, dharma, and kama, so much as revealing their limitations, right? So as liberated Jivan Mukta, he may still act in the world because the world does appear to him, but without the underlying sense of lack that drove ordinary pursuit for dharma, artha, kama. As we saw multiple explanations earlier today, that does world end for once you transcend the mind? No, world exists, world appears. Actually, let me put it this way. It's challenging. World appears, but it doesn't exist in you. World appears outside, but it does not exist in you. That it's not there in your thought. It's not there. It never has any power on you. In a specific context of Mandukya Upanishad, Moksha Purushartha isn't attained by better dharma or more artha. It's attained through jnana, the direct knowledge of one's true nature as Turyam, the silent, ever-present awareness behind all the experience. Slide 4, please. The next one. Thank you very much. So Mandukya doesn't just describe moksha, it gives a method to attain it. Many of the Upanishads have actually explained that jnana is the only route, only cause to destroy the ajnana. But Mandukya just not gives you theory, but it also shows you and empirically the evidence, and also gives you pathway how to attain it. Most texts talk about the liberation philosophy. Mandukya is unusual because it offers something almost diagnostic, aimed at identifying the precise nature or cause of the condition. Right? It's like just not a diagnostic laboratory. It's a doctor who also diagnoses, and he sees the diagnosis and he gives you the medicine to come out of that. It transcends that state of kripana, as Krishnaji beautifully put it. Right? Kripana is also basically poverty, right? It examines your own everyday states of consciousness on waking, dreaming, and deep sleep as actual terrain, where liberation is to be found. So liberation is not transcending 1, 2, 3, and then there is one more fourth states. It is staying in these 3 states and experiencing that these 3 states are not the truth, but the Turyam, the underlying, is the truth. You don't need to look beyond your own experience. You need to look more carefully at it. So you need that awareness. The four states, as you could see, is Jagrat, a state of experiencing the external world through the senses, or Swapna, state where the mind creates its own world, or Sushupti, the state of unconsciousness where one is free from the desires, or Turiyam, the ultimate transcendental state beyond this walking, dreaming deep. But it's not a fourth state. It actually is the only state on whom all these three states dances. The text describes the waking to be the Vaishvanara, and dreaming to be Taijasa, and deep sleep to be Prajna, as the three ordinary states everyone experiences every day. Moksha isn't found in any of these, is the lesson that we get from Mandukya. That is the Moksha Purushartha. It's found in recognizing that underlying fourth state, which is the silent witness. Slide 5. Thank you very much. Mandukya also reframes the moksha away from achievement and towards recognition. It's a crucial shift of how do we really perceive moksha to be. Dharma, artha, kama are all things you pursue and accumulate. Mandukya insists moksha, it works differently. Turiyam, the fourth liberated state, was never absent while you were experiencing all the three states. In fact, because of this Turiyam alone were you experiencing all the three states, of course, coated with the ignorance. You're not traveling towards liberation. It's not that I do X and Y and then obtain the moksha. You will not obtain the moksha. You are not traveling towards liberation. You are uncovering a mistake, the belief or superimposition that you put on, that you were ever bound. Remember the donkey, which a man ties, and he forgets the rope, and the donkey wouldn't listen to him. And then he was told that you have to act as if you have a rope because it's conditioned. So how do we come out of condition is what Mandukya explains with experience. And it's an experiment. Basically, Mandukya is a science to the science. This makes Mandukya's version of Moksha Purushartha fundamentally non-transactional. Nothing is gained. What we do, what is happening is only that we are getting rid of avidya. Imagine if you were to chisel out a beautiful Krishna Murti for your mandir. You chisel out what is not Krishna from the stone to get, as a result, a beautiful Krishna who was already hidden in the stone. Is it not that we do a process of neti, removing what you are not to get what you are? And that is the moksha, way to moksha. That's what Mandukya tells us. Slide 6, please. The process followed here, of course, it's not only Mandukya, but in all the other Upanishads too, except that I didn't really pitch more on the Ashwarya Yoga and the Jati because you have enough of that from all the great speakers earlier. The process followed here is Adhyaropana Pavada. The Upanishad, specially elaborated by the Gaudapadas Karikas, uses almost beautiful approach here. Apophatic, meaning something by describing which is not neti marga, as we just now saw, rather than what it is. Turiya is described as neti. Neither inward nor outward, right? We say na antah pragyam, na bhash pragyam, na ubata pragyam. It's all na. It's all the neti. So it's very difficult to point out at that state of Brahman with the ease. You can only, because ito vacha nivartante aprapya manasasaha. Your words cannot describe him. He's agrahya. You cannot use your senses to grasp him. Neither inward nor outward recognition, neither knowing or unknowing. Liberation comes from stripping away the false identifications, not acquiring one. Atma is beyond the sukha dukha dhyasa. Atma is beyond the shobha, ashobhana shobhana dhyasa. This is what comes from Rama, Vasishtha teaching Rama. Slide 7, please. Turiya is not really the fourth state, as I've been saying. It is substratum of all. I could see that. Right? So it's an adhishtana, it's a substratum, the underlying foundation of the support on which something rests. It's a very good word here. Turiya isn't experienced sequentially like the other three, right? Okay, first you do the dharma, then you do the artha, then kama, and then moksha will be presented to you. It's ever-present ground of being That makes the other three possible ever. The moksha then is not adding a new experience, but recognizing what was always there. So recognition, the cognition of that state, Shivam Advaitam, Sa Atma Savigneyaha. So that is Atma, that is Eureka moment, is what presented to you as an experiential evidence in Mandukya, and that's the moksha. It says you are not the body, you're not the mind, you're ever shining Nitya Buddha Shuddha Chaitanya Atma. Sorrow are for the body and mind. They are not for you. You are untouched if you really experience the kind of moksha which Mandukya presents us. Is you are not the kripana. You are not a poor person. So you are the amritasya putraha. That's what it tells you. The next slide, please. Perfect. So the Gaudapada Karika tries Mandukya explicitly to Purushartha theory by introducing of this Jativada. So he is a great commentator, uses Mandukya to argue that the moksha is the only Purushartha. That means he not only mystified and falsified the Jagrit Swapna Sushupti. He is also saying the other Purushartha, Dharma, Artha, Kama. He also kind of says they are actually not the real Purushartha. They are not there at all. The only Purushartha in real sense, the ultimate sense, is moksha. Dharmartha Kama exist in the realm of the duality, Vyavahara, isn't it? Which Mandukya's teaching on Turiya reveals to be ajati, a term meaning no origination. The idea that creation or duality never truly happened in the ultimate sense. If the duality itself is illusory, then the goals pursued within the duality are mere provisional, right? How can they be true? Only moksha as recognition of non-self is paramarthika, is absolutely real and not merely conventional real. That's what this slide takes us through. Slide 9, next one, please. Thank you very much. So here, the proposition here is, how do I do it? Because that's what Mandukya is all about, right? It doesn't give you the theory and asks you to grapple, figure out your own self. It also gives you a way out. So here it introduces the Omkara. So Om as a practical bridge between the theory and the practical and the Purushartha. It says, Om ityet aksharamidam sarvam tasyopakyanam. So it says Mandukya doesn't leave you with abstract philosophy. It gives you Omkara meditation as A, U, Ma. So Shankara always says, don't say A, because there is no A existing in the Akara. It should be always to be Akara, Ukara, and Makara. It gives the Om meditation as a concrete sadhana for internalizing this teaching, making the pursuit of moksha, purushartha, experiential, not merely intellectual. Om is a sonic map of entire journey of liberation. So he says, Amatras Chaturtham Shivam. He uses beautiful word. The fourth state Turiyam is beyond these sounds of Akara, Ukara, Makara. Beyond the distinction, beyond the division is the ultimate auspiciousness, that is Shivam Advitiyam. Auma represents the waking, dreaming, and deep, respectively. The silence that follows represents Turiyam. That's the understanding we need to have. That's the moksham. Meditating on Om this way is a means, or is meant to be direct contemplative technique for realizing one's own identity with the Brahman. Next slide, please. The core liberating insight, which comes way back in the chapter, in the first few slides, right? So, Ayam Atma Brahma, one of the Mahavakyas. The single ever declaration of Mahavakya is the crux of the entire text. The liberation isn't the soul traveling somewhere or merging with something external. It is the recognition that the individual self, Atman, was never separate from the ultimate reality, that is Brahman, in the initial state itself. He just kind of creates a baseline understanding for you and me. Next slide, please. Then the bondage, he says, is ignorance, which is the avidya. Therefore, liberation, that is the jnana, is the only way out, not na anya pantaha, not any other action. And this is the moksha karana. The moksha is nothing but dukkha nivritti, sukha prapti. So how do I do it? By removing the bondage, that is the ignorance, and thereby getting yourself liberated through quotient called jnana. Advaitam Shantam Shivam Prapanchopashamanam. So Advaita, the non-duality, that reality is one without the second, is what is the aim. It's that the bow through which the arrow of all these dualities taken to hit, culminate into that Advaitam. That's what Ramachandraji also said. The word is a mere projection of the mind and disappears upon realizing of the self. Disappears here means loses its impact or effect on you. That's what disappearance is. It's not that it's going to disappear. The world is physically visible, but it lost its power to affect you. It lost its power to make you get any impulse, no spandana from you to this external world. The slide 12, please. The last of it. Yeah, there you go. Moksha is here and now. So since the entire problem is misperception of one's own true nature, not realizing your own Swarupa Lakshana, no ritual, no effort, no external achievement can ever grant you moksha. Only direct self-knowledge can. And this is why Mandukya is treated as a Jnana Marga, the path of knowledge text, rather than Karma Marga. In short, other texts affirm moksha as a mere purushartha. Whereas Mandukya is prized because it explains why moksha is qualitatively different from the other three goals. Mandukya defines moksha not as some future destination of your journey, but as an immanent, already existing within reality that simply needs to be recognized here and now, if you wish to. And how your own mind right now, in this very state, in this very moment, instantaneously, as you're reading this or looking at this verse, at this presentation, is what the field where that liberation is realized. So the practical tip I take from the experimentation is when we chant Om, and then before we start the other Om, there is always the gap. Observe that gap, that silence, and try and expand the time of that silence. That is where the prapancha upashamana happens. Become the observer, the satyam, the eternality, and experience a Shivam, Shantam, Advitiyam. I resign with my thoughts. Thank you very much for allowing me to present myself. Over to you, Shekharji.
Yeah. Basically, Vijay, we will stop with this presentation. We will take up the Q&A maybe in other sessions. Anyone who has questions, they can continue in the next Chandogya Upanishad classes also. Just a brief summary of what went through my mind. I'll take 1 or 2 minutes. First of all, I'd like to congratulate each and every one of you who have presented today. And it shows the tremendous effort you have put in preparation of these slides. And also, it also shows a tremendous amount of depth of understanding what we have learned in the last 2 years and 10 months. The slides were excellent. And I've never had this type of session before. I used to only have a summary, just not in this format, but in some other format. I had revisions of the participants, but I was extremely impressed by the coordination done by Bharat and also by Vijaya to assimilate all the slides together and put it in this format. As I said, we will start next week. Next Sunday, we will start the Chandogya Upanishad. At the end of the 6th chapter of Chandogya Upanishad, we will have a revision presentation like this. There are 9 times Tattvamasi has been uttered by the Guru to the student. each one of you can take one example of how Tattvamasi was indicated by the Guru. So I'm giving you a startup for the next presentation, which might happen after 6 months. Thank you very much. And Vijaya, can you please conclude with the Shanti mantra?
Yes. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadhaya Purnameva Avasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.
Thank you, Shekharji, and thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you. Namaste.
Thank you.
Hari Om. Thanks, everybody. Yeah.
Namaste,
Thank you.
Shekharji. Thanks, everyone. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Shekharji,
much.
thank
Thank you.
you.
Hari
Thank you
Om.
very
Namaste.
Bharatji has his hand raised. He has to say something.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Bharatji.
Bharat, go ahead.
I just wanted to say thank you for this genius idea. I don't know why you didn't do it sooner. Absolutely, I support you. After every text, we should have a revision class like this. Not only is it beneficial to us, but it gives you a break as well.
Very
So,
good, Bharat. Anyway, it was very good, and I think the effort put by all of you was absolutely great. And I can see
yeah,
the interest among the participants also to be glued almost 2 hours and 45 minutes just to
yeah,
listen to the
absolutely.
summary, which
Yeah.
is amazing.
It is. I just want to say, thanks to all the presenters, but especially to Vijayaji. You are a master of ceremonies. Your ad-libbing, the way you just naturally fill in everything, how you introduce everybody. It was beautiful. Well done.
Thank you to all the speakers. I learned a lot. Humbled, really, truly humbled. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Shri.
Hari Om.
Hari Om. Thank you.
Hari Om.
Thank you.